ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President, New Growth Business, Zebra Technologies, Phil Gerskovich.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to listen to me. I'm here from a company that many of you don't know. We've been around 40 years. We're a billion-dollar publicly traded company headquartered in the United States. 60% of our business, however, is outside of the United States. And we've been supplying automatic identification equipment to businesses for that period of time. What does that mean? Typically, that's barcodes, but in recent years, it's been RFID, both passive and active, and other kinds of sensing technology. Starting about 3 years ago, we started a journey within our company to really understand what the Internet of Things was going to mean for our industry. And we assembled a task force of people to really look at that. And we started consulting with a broad number of people in the industry, academics, other business leaders, other technology leaders, to really understand how the Internet of Things was going to transform our industry. And I'm here to tell you about some of the results of this conversation. You know, what was the Internet of Things going to do to us? And for us as a company primarily involved in business-to-business transactions, why should we care about the Internet of Things? Many of the examples that you hear are typically consumer-related. What kinds of goals should we set for ourselves as a company around the Internet of Things? All these things have been built together into a journey that I'm going to report on this morning. Now, I love technology. Everybody who knows me knows I love technology. And it's always easy to run back to people in your company and say, we should adopt this latest new technology. But every company has somebody like this in it, somebody who asks the hard questions of, well, why really should we pursue this new technology? What is it about fundamentally for us? And a common refrain is, it's typically about reducing expenses. And let's face it, expenses are important in companies. It's frequently about increasing revenue for your company or finding new customers. But in the end, we have to ask yourself, how do we really justify these investments that these new technologies bring? Well, I look for guidance for leaders in the world, leaders who have really transformed industries to answer these questions. And one leader that I really respect is Jeff Bezos, who's the founder of Amazon. Amazon is a company that I think most people in this room know. I use them almost every few days, order something on Amazon. It's really transformed my retail shopping experience. And it's really struck me how Amazon has been able to sort of roll continuously into new areas and new products as they move forward. And I think Jeff has 3 maxims that he uses to run his company by. First, put the customer first. Start all conversations with that. What does the customer want? What's going to improve the customer experience? Number 2, invent. Do something new. Use new technologies. Rethink the problem. Then finally, be patient, because it takes oftentimes a little time for these kinds of innovations to become aware and to really move your company. But it will happen, and you should have confidence that it will happen. So we've used these guiding principles to help us determine the path we should take on the Internet of Things. I really believe that leaders win in this world by delivering better customer experiences. If you start there and you say, how can I improve my customer experience, you'll become a leader in whatever industry you're in. This will bring you the new customers that you look for. It will increase loyalty of the customers you have. And it will reduce the pressures on your profits. You won't be in a competitive game as to who is selling something for the lowest possible price, because your customers will be coming to you because of the superior experience. Finally, and we see this time and time again, is new disruptive companies like Amazon come into some old industries by delivering a better customer experience. That's really their entree into businesses. And they can be very disruptive to businesses that have been around a long time, like Zebra Technologies. The Internet of Things fundamentally provides real-world data to drive good customer experiences. I like to say that the Internet of Things are the roots for great new applications. And increasingly, as a number of people have said already this morning, those applications are going to be based in the cloud. 10 years from now, virtually all business applications, I believe, will be cloud-based applications. And even today, we see industries being transformed by cloud-based applications. Those cloud-based applications, however, need real-world data to operate. And that's where the Internet of Things comes into play. It provides the real-world data that feed into these enterprise cloud applications. So, what we do see in the Internet of Things is a lot of really great consumer products that are leading the way. One of my favorite is the Nest thermostat that's pictured up here. The Nest thermostat, if you haven't seen it, is an Internet of Things thermostat. Thermostats have always been very difficult devices to program, but with the Nest thermostat, you can do all your automation and programming using a cloud-based service with a smartphone, and the thermostat is smart. The thermostat is Wi-Fi connected to the Internet, and that Wi-Fi connection has really transformed the experience of using a thermostat. Several people mentioned earlier the Fitbit products, which are great products. They're illustrated here. And both of these products really illustrate to many people in the world how Internet of Things products can transform the world. One of the things, however, has been business-to-business transactions have not been really touched by the Internet of Things today. And I am here to report that I think there's great potential to improve customer experiences by leveraging the Internet of Things. And I'll give you some examples as we go through the presentation this morning. So let's look at some things for inspiration for how the Internet of Things can transform industries. One of my favorite examples is a company called Zipcars. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of Zipcars or use Zipcars. It's really a business that's transforming the world of automotive products. Most people look at it as a car rental company, which it is. However, unlike traditional car rental companies, you can rent the car by the hour. It's very popular for young urban people who like it because they can just get a car when they need it. Zipcars has parking lots that are scattered throughout urban areas, and it's usually a short walk to find a Zipcar parking lot. You can get in the Zipcar and use it. And they've just recently been launched in Barcelona, which is great to see. Now, one of the things about Zipcars is it is an Internet of Things car. The whole system only works because of the Internet of Things. You get an RFID card that you go up next to the car. There's an RFID reader in the car that communicates through the cloud to a cloud service and authorizes you to take the car. There's an iPhone app that you can use to reserve cars. So it's a phenomenal product. It's very successful. It has many imitators now in the world. But it really started me thinking about what is Zipcar really? Zipcar allows many people to share one car. Here's an example of a Zipcar promotional tweet where they say it's like owning a car without all of the sucky parts. And for those of you who English is not or English slang is not your preferred language, it means how do you own a car without all the things that young people don't like to deal with? And the question I have is Zipcars a threat to rental car companies, or are they a threat to auto companies? You've now got 20 young urban people who don't need to buy a car. They all share one car. A product like Zipcars can have a dramatic effect on the auto industry as a whole. And while you initially think about it as a rental car product, it's really a way to share a car between 20 people. And that's really revolutionary. There's a new generation of young people. These are people whose first phone was a smartphone. And they've got a completely different view of life and of what real-time data means. Older people, we worry about being tracked and security and all these kinds of things. This young generation, they assume that everything is tracked. They assume that they have real-time information to everything. They want to know where all their friends are at every moment of the day or night. They want complete, total information always. And these people are now entering the workforce. These people are building startup companies. These people are going to be the next Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos building the billion-dollar enterprises. And the reason is they're going to look at things in a completely different way. We, as a company, started challenging ourselves. How would this generation of people look at our old industry? What would they say when they looked at it? These people who believe that all problems can be solved with a smartphone and a credit card. And when they look at some of these old industries, they're going to come up with completely different solutions to the problems of this industry. And they're going to solve problems using the Internet of Things and cloud computing. Those are their tool sets that they're going to use to solve all the world's problems. So we started on this journey of going out and interviewing a lot of people in our industry. Now, one of the things we asked ourselves is our customers asking for the Internet of Things? The answer is no, they're not asking for the Internet of Things. And that's the wrong way to look at this problem. What they're asking for is better customer experiences. Or they're asking us, how can I deliver better customer experiences to my customers? And so with that in our mind, we went around and traveled the world visiting users of our products and people who didn't use our products to really understand their workflow today. One of the conclusions we came to is businesses should start taking progressive steps to leverage the Internet of Things to improve their customer experience. You don't need to boil the ocean. You don't need to completely rip everything up. There are tremendous benefits to using the Internet of Things today, and you should start trying to take some of them. Step one, I firmly believe, is give your customers today more information about your current offerings. That sounds simple. And it is simple, but it's something that all businesses tend to forget, how valuable just information is. You know, when the elevator was invented, elevator companies figured out very quickly that you could dramatically improve people's perception of elevators just by putting a big gauge in front of the elevator to tell you where the elevator was, what floor it is. And if you don't believe this, just go into an elevator lobby and look at everybody, and everybody's standing up there looking at that dial on the top of the elevator. Just knowing where the elevator is, whether it's going up or whether it's coming down, increases your customer satisfaction with using that elevator. We saw a number of examples of smart cities, and a lot of cities are adapting the same principle with their bus systems. More people will ride the bus when riders know when the next bus is arriving. You don't have to increase the number of buses. You don't have to change the schedules. If you just tell people when the bus is coming, they will ride the bus more frequently because they'll look up and they'll say, oh, the next bus is coming in 15 minutes. I can go run and get a cup of coffee and come back and take the bus. Overall satisfaction is improved dramatically with some very basic pieces of information that businesses can deliver to people. Now, let's get into another important industry that's very important for our company and I'm sure a number of people in this room, freight shipments. Many of us use parcel delivery companies. These are companies like FedEx, UPS, or DHL. And these are phenomenal companies. They do a great job. And I can go online to the websites of these companies and I can track packages as they move, actually even from China all the way to my door in the United States. And they can tell me it's going to arrive at my door at 2 p.m. This is phenomenal. The reason they can do this is because they control the end-to-end process. And many of us who aren't really familiar with how supply chains work thinks that this is true for all of the supply chain. The fact is that very few goods in the total supply chain are moved with this kind of precision. For freight, for which most of us get all of our goods and services, it's a completely different story. We have supply chains that go throughout the world. Obviously, a lot of goods come from China and go into the Western world, but goods go the other direction too. They really cross the world. But real-time information about freight deliveries hasn't progressed much in 100 years. Now, a funny story, when I was first running through this presentation with some people, they said, Phil, it's improved in 100 years, hasn't it? It really must have improved in 100 years. And the answer is, not really. I actually have some interesting paperwork. On the first part of this page is a bill of lading from the West Indies Company in the 1600s. And you can see there's both pre-printed material and handwritten material. In the middle, there's a bill of lading from 1924. One of the things our team did is went and visited a bunch of cross-docking facilities around the world in the last few months. And we were shocked to see how many handwritten pieces of paper there are with bills of ladings that are still being used. I think a vast majority of goods are being shipped with handwritten bills of lading still. There's tremendous opportunities in freight shipments. Typically, businesses who are tracking goods, say from China to a distribution center in Europe, will have to manually query multiple organizations to track that shipment with phone calls and other methods. And this is really a shame, because without inventing anything new, all parts of the supply chain can be instrumented with Internet of Things devices. We have the technology today to completely read out where goods are as they move through the supply chain. It's really not a technology problem. It's really sort of an organization and willpower problem. Another thing we found as we talk to people is integration of data from multiple organizations is critical to deliver a best consumer experience. When you go to an airport today, you see one monitor that lists all the planes in the airport, no matter what airline they are. And that's very valuable when you're in the airport. We've talked to many businesses who say, you know, if I could just know when goods are coming to my loading docks and present it on one screen, I could organize my loading docks so much more efficiently. Now, to really accomplish this requires a level of cooperation between companies that doesn't exist today so that data can be exchanged in a common format. But we really believe that integration of data from multiple companies is really critical for good success. So the technology is here to make an Internet of Things truck. We can make trucks today that connect in real time and read out in-transit data. And these trucks and the loads in the trucks can be instrumented with active RFID devices that form networks in the back of the truck and read out to a gateway in real time to a cloud service. And these shipments can tell you where they are, what the temperature of the goods are, what the humidity is, and what the shock is. We talk to major retailers who pay a lot of money to ship goods around the world. And they said to us, why would I want to drive a truck 1,000 kilometers when I know that the tomatoes in the back of the truck are rotten? I would turn around that truck halfway in the shipment and save a lot of fuel costs. These are the kind of things that the Internet of Things can enable. What do customers want? They want real-time information. They want to know, where is it? When is it going to get here? How long will I have to wait? Is it fresh? Where was it grown? You know, where can I buy it? Do you have it in my size? All these kinds of real-time information. This is an interesting example here. This is a Google search for a soccer ball near my house. And Google, if many of you don't realize, is investing a tremendous amount of money to connect up their shopping services, their online search engine, with real-time databases of retailers. They frequently can report more data than retailers' own websites can report about the real-time inventory of goods. And Google is making this investment because it delivers an overall search experience. And it's really fascinating to me that I could search and find out stores in my area and their inventory levels for this soccer ball. But again, this is a consumer experience. In business, it's a completely different story. Businesses are full of remote managed inventory. Retail, you may or may not realize that much of the inventory levels in retail are set by the vendors of the goods. It could be women's clothing, it could be nuts and bolts, it could be food, it could be any kind of products. The inventory levels are really set by the vendor. Unfortunately, the vendors rely on very imprecise information about what's actually in the store. Same thing occurs in healthcare, everything from pharmaceuticals to hospital supplies. It occurs in food service. Grease levels in fast food restaurants are remotely managed by the vendor who is selling grease to that restaurant. How do you really do this in an effective way? The fact is, for most remote managed inventory today, you have to send somebody out to the remote location to do a manual inventory count. And there are many technical reasons as to why that's happened, but it's not necessary. The Internet of Things really addresses remote managed inventory. By combining smart shelves with barcode readers, RFID, and all kinds of other sensors, we can collect that data in vast numbers of remote locations, using an IoT gateway, collect that data and send it up to a cloud service, and really transform remote managed inventory for a broad range of industries. The second key step, I think, is to give people ways to customize what they get. What options? When do I get it? One of the things I like about the parcel delivery companies is when I know I'm not going to be at my house, I can go to their online websites and redirect a shipment or tell them to hold a shipment because we're on an overnight holiday. Again, for industries and businesses, this is just a dream today. There are tremendous ways that we can improve the customer experience by allowing people to customize what they get. Step 3, give them new things. Pay-as-you-use products, I think, are going to transform the world. Zipcar is one example of that, but there are many, many examples. Increasingly, through cloud-based service offerings, tied in with Internet of Things devices, pay-as-you-use products are going to transform the world. The idea of making big commitments up front is foreign to a new generation of people. They're used to paying for things on a credit card on a monthly basis. And this thought and this mindset is going to completely change the world. We even see industries like auto insurance using Internet of Things devices to deliver a pay-as-you-go auto insurance. We can talk about guaranteed replenishment of inventories, guaranteed quality, remote product service. I mean, I think the number of services that can be delivered in a pay-as-you-go method, I think, really cover the whole world. So, as we went on our progression, we asked ourselves, how should we really prepare for this new world? Excuse me. And we consulted a number of experts throughout the world, and I want to share you some of the thoughts. Fortress companies. This is the way most companies still operate. They construct business processes like a fortress. It's a closed world. Their IT systems are really closed off from the rest of the world. They don't really take much data in, or much data doesn't go out. And frankly, this makes creating great customer experiences very difficult. And it makes them very vulnerable to quicker companies leveraging the cloud and shared information. The Internet of Things and cloud computing is going to change that. Rather than being a fortress, all companies in the future are going to be part of a broader world with process integration and data sharing with both suppliers and customers in order to deliver better customer experiences. Excuse me. The IoT devices that are used in business can range from very simple, a weight, a sensor that just measures whether a device has gone by, to very complex devices like sophisticated RFID readers that are reading thousands of devices per second. And so as people plan for IoT deployments, you should recognize that in businesses, the sensors that you're going to use are wildly divergent. And furthermore, as many people have said, there's going to be a rapid reduction in the cost and complexity to connect devices to the Internet. Now, we all know this is true, but I think it's really shocking how true it is, that virtually any device can now be connected to the Internet using readily available technology. And furthermore, increasingly, that connectivity will go on using wireless connectivity and increasingly cellular connectivity built right into the device itself. And we're seeing the costs to put a device using cellular connection on the Internet dropping tremendously. And not only the capital costs to enable that device, meaning the price per the cellular connection, but the monthly fees to connect it are remarkably low. For not many dollars per month, you can take a device and put it up on the Internet. And this is transforming the way people are wiring up their enterprises and organizations. I can deploy IoT sensors virtually throughout the world today and collect and receive that data in one central point. So that leads to some essentials, I believe. For organizations, you should plan to deal with thousands to millions of devices over multiple locations that you may have to interact with as an organization. It won't just be the devices that are within your four walls, but these could be devices that are spread out throughout the world. Secondly, the devices and applications are going to continuously evolve. People mentioned earlier apps. Increasingly, business applications are being viewed similar to the way iPhone apps are. Not quite the same, but the cost and complexity to install new applications is going down dramatically, even for business users. And therefore, anything we build should anticipate in advance a continuous evolution. Lastly, you should plan for data sharing. When a device is installed somewhere, it's very likely that multiple organizations are going to want to be able to get the information from that device. Now, you have to plan for that in advance. You need to deal with security and data sharing and all those kinds of things. But don't think like a fortress company. Think like an Internet of Things and cloud company. And that leads us to some other recommendations, one of which is to separate the tools from managing connecting devices from the applications that are using the data. Now, there are IoT deployments that you'll see today where people build one application and connect it uniquely to one device. And that's fine, and it works in some very specific situations. But for businesses increasingly following the earlier principles, you should plan that the device and the device management be separate from the applications that use the data. And so we recommend, and we're starting to talk to our customers about cloud platforms that you can use to help manage thousands to millions of devices. And these cloud platforms really have two roles. One role is to actually reach out throughout the world and find all your devices and maintain connectivity with them no matter where they are, no matter how they're hooked up. And then secondly, provide a common pathway for applications to get access to those devices. Those are the two key principles that need to be built into any management system that deals with IoT devices. Now, as we went around and talked to industry experts about how to build such a system, we were talking to Professor Sanjay Sarma at MIT. And it was his lab who invented the word IoT, actually, which was the Auto ID lab at MIT. And we were talking to him about a new project he's involved with called Cloud Car. And he was telling me, he said, you know, as we were thinking about how you put a car on the internet, we realized you really don't want to put the actual car on the internet in that you don't want anybody to be able to dial into your car. That creates all kinds of security problems. What you really want to do is to create a virtual version of that car in the cloud and let the apps talk to the virtual car, which is in effect exactly what Facebook is for real people. I assume by now most people know what Facebook is. Facebook is really, you think of it having a home page for you in Facebook, but that home page for you in Facebook really is a virtual version of you. It's an avatar for you. And increasingly, if you're a young person, your friends interact with the virtual version of you, not the real version of you. But through various mechanisms, the virtual version of you stays in synchronization with the real you, either because you update it or your friends update it for you with pictures of you at the bar last night. And so what we believe is that the same metaphor applies to efficient management of devices and Internet of Things devices. That devices really need a home page, just like everyone has a home page in social networks. That by having a home page for all devices, you have one central place of virtual information that represents that device, and you can apply consistent principles to share that device with the many applications that want to get at that device. Just like in Facebook, where you can say different permission levels for different people to access your information, in the same way, a cloud platform for devices, you can set up permissions that various entities and applications can get access to that particular device's information. We think it's a very powerful concept and one we believe in for efficient management of IoT devices. Lastly, again, just to sort of summarize, we've been on this journey of relooking at all our businesses and how a competitor could displace them with IoT products. We're very serious about our journey. We've set a corporate goal for ourselves that in 5 years, 25% of our business should come from IoT-related businesses. We believe we've, as an organization, needed that kind of measure to test how well we're progressing in this. I would love to talk with you more about that in any of the breaks or after the sessions, and I thank you very much for your time this morning.